What's up, everybody? This is Nick from Townsend 505 speaking to you here. Joining me yet again, Bryer from Breyer's Music Showcase. We're uh, we're gonna be finishing off our Black Sabbath series today,
Mm.
our very last review, and it's called 13. So, Bryer, uh, you want to give us the last history lesson for Black Sabbath?
Of course, I will. Very fitting, I must. Okay, so if we exclude Heaven and Hell, then it's been about 18 years since the last album. So, yeah, long time. Of course, things that were going on behind. Apparently, they've actually were in talks with Ozzy to record another album for a long time. I think this like dates project dates back to like 2001. But things kind of happen. Of course, there was the Heaven and Hell thing, that whole thing. And also Geezer was doing solo stuff, and of course Ozzy was still doing his solo stuff, and that was like still the main priority. But after many years, they finally were able to find time, and it was kind of funny. It was, well, not funny, but it was another reason why they really wanted to get this album done was because Tony was kind of in the middle of a health crisis because he was diagnosed with lymphoma. So luckily, of course, we know he's still alive, so he did beat it. But it was definitely a health scare, and so there was kind of a bit of that motivation to just like, okay, let's just do it while we still can. And so yeah, they got together. Of course, a thing about this album is that even though we have Tony, we have Ozzy, we have Geezer, there is one member still missing, and that of course is Bill Ward. And there were many reasons why Bill wasn't on this album. I'm not going to go too into specifics, but I know there was a lot of contract things. Um, Maybe there was money involved or stuff like that, management stuff. But bottom line, Bill could not make it onto this final album, which is kind of a shame. But it is what it is. Um, so yeah, and then on drums we have Brad Wilk, who was in a number of bands. The most notable ones was Rage Against the Machine and Audio Slave. So yeah, he's kind of filling in the drums here. And this was also when they had a new producer. Of course, this is a pretty famous producer, and that of course is Rick Rubin, who's worked with tons of he's pretty much a good all rounder. Like he does rock, he's done like even hip hop as well. Like he's pretty diverse in that regard. I know people are kind of hit or miss with him, with his production style, but I never minded him. He seems like a cool guy. But yeah, and the last little thing about the production is that this was actually on Vertigo, which they were on Vertigo in the beginning, and yeah, so it's kind of funny because they were on Vertigo, they left it, and then now they're back. So that's one thing that kind of brings them back full circle. Um, and it's kind of funny was because I know when I was doing, I remember I watched an interview, I think it was with Ozzy and Geezers, that that Rick kind of sat the band down and just kind of forced them to listen to the debut album again. And they were like, why are we doing this? But it was kind of a thing. Rick was trying to get them back to their roots, just to see where they began. And you'll kind of hear that as we go through the songs here. But this album came out on June 10th, 2013. 13. Yeah, there it is. And this did really well. Got number one in both the US and the UK. And yeah, even won a Grammy for best vocal performances for the song God Is Dead. And yeah, and then they actually were in talks to maybe record another album, but ultimately that didn't really come to fruition. And in 2016, they would embark on the End Tour, which would end up being their final tour, which ended in 2017, and thus ending the band in general. So yeah, kind of brings it all back here. So yeah, there you go. That's my background info on 13.
Cool. What's your brief thoughts on the album before we begin?
All right, so my brief thoughts on it. Um, I think it's a pretty good album. I wouldn't say I love it, but there's definitely some good moments in this one. There's definitely some good songs, and yeah, I think this is a pretty solid album to go out with. Again, I do have some complaints, but again, we'll get into them. But I do like this album.
Cool. I personally really like it too. Well, I like quite a bit. This is a pretty good album to go out on. I think it's pretty good. I quite liked it. I heard it a while ago, but re-listening to it, I'm like, you know what? I think I like it a lot more than I did before,
Mm.
and it's a good album. It's not the greatest album ever from them, but I think it's pretty good,
Yeah.
especially for Ozzy Osbourne sake, especially
Mm.
after the last album, the Never Say Die album. But
Mm.
I like it better than Never Say Die, and pretty
Yeah.
sure you me on that too, because
Yeah. Oh yeah.
it's one of your least favorite Black Sabbath albums.
Mhm.
But without further ado, let's get right into the track listing. We get to the very first song of the album, End of the Beginning.
Okay. So right off the bat, we have a pretty long song. We have a song that's about 8 minutes, and a lot of these songs are pretty long. You know, I'll mention it, but sometimes the length works, sometimes the length could have been trimmed a bit, but I think this was one of the better ones. Um, lyrically, you have Geezer writing the lyrics again, and this one's kind of about technology taking over the human race, which is they've done it before. I know in Dehumanizer they played with that theme a lot. But it's kind of talking about cloning and how artificial intelligence, and it's kind of funny because is kind of relevant in a sense, especially with the whole hologram sort of thing with live shows. So it's kind of fascinating there. Okay, so besides that, the one thing I know that really sticks out about this album is that it's pretty loud. Like, this CD is very loud. So I really had to turn it down when I hear this album. And that was kind of during a time where I guess there was like a whole phenomenon being like, if it's louder, that means it's better. Don't think I agree with it. I know my ears don't agree with it, but besides that, um, yeah, it starts off with this very heavy, very doom guitar riff, which is very reminiscent on the first song on the debut. Very similar vibe. But I still liked it. Ozzy, it's been a long time since he's on a Black Sabbath album, but he sounds fine. I wouldn't say he sounds amazing, but for his at this point he sounds pretty good. I wouldn't be surprised if they did put some effects on his vocals, just to make it, because I know he's pretty hit or miss. But he still sounds fine here. I don't think it bothered me. Some other things I liked, I think Geezer's bass again. Geezer definitely comes in on the bass on here, and throughout, which is pretty good. It does pick up. You have a good guitar solo. The drums by Brad is pretty solid too. But overall, it's a pretty solid track. It's not one of my favorites of their opening songs, but I think it's a pretty good way to open the album. It kind of sets the tone. So there you go.
I think this is a great opener for the album. I think it sets the mood really well. Shows that, hey, Ozzy's back. I don't think it. For me, I would have thought it would have been like a mediocre song, like, oh yeah, Ozzy's back, yay, but you have to like it now since Ozzy's back. But I think they do a great job at kind of welcoming back, having like a great welcome song almost. And this made my top 5. I think it's a really good song on the album. Uh,
Yeah.
I will say my big gripe with this album, I love, well, not love, but I like every song on the album. However, the one thing that's drawing this album from being a perfect 10 out of 10 for me is the length of the songs.
Yeah, I agree.
If the songs weren't as long, this would easily be not only a 10 out of 10, but this would be like a top 5 album for me, but
Mm,
I feel like the long songs were just too much. But
yeah.
that's just my opinion. There might be Black Sabbath fans that are like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're
Yeah, I
crazy.
know this album's kind of gets a mixed. I think this album gets a lot of mixed views. I think it's like one of those albums where I hear people either they really enjoy the album or they really don't enjoy the album.
I really enjoy this, but I wouldn't say it's a perfect album by
Yeah,
any
no,
means.
I agree.
But having that said, the next song of the album, "God Is Dead."
Yeah, God is dead? Question mark.
I know.
So, so yeah, this is now 9 minutes. Now we went up a whole minute now, and so you're probably wondering what the heck is what do they mean by God is dead? Well, it was actually a very famous quote by a German philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche. Hopefully I said that right. I remember I took a philosophy class and he was brought up, so I remember that. And so the full quote was, God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. How shall we comfort ourselves, the murderers of all murderers? So that sort of thing. You can look it up later, but again, it kind of starts in another slow burn type of song. It kind of gets you in this mood, very haunting atmosphere, and it has a nice guitar melody through. But about 30 seconds in, that's when it really starts to pick up. The bass is very heavy, great tone on it. Yeah, just a good driving song here. Um, and probably the part I enjoyed the most was probably the final third of the song. That's when it really kicks in. Definitely catches my attention here. And yeah, like I said, this won them that Grammy for best metal performances, and yeah, I can see why. Um, yeah, I enjoyed this one. Again, could have been shorter, probably, but I think it's good enough. It doesn't bother me too much. But that's my thoughts on it.
I thought it was good. This is one of my least favorite songs of the album, if I'm going to be honest. This is towards the bottom of my ranking. I thought it was a really good song, but this is one of the songs where I feel the length was a little too long. Like the length was
Mm-hmm.
actually a factor for me on this one. It's good, but I feel like there's better on this album.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion, though. It's like I like it. This isn't bad or anything, but this wouldn't be a song that I really go back to that much, in my opinion, of course. But we get to the next song on the album, "Loner."
All right. Well, at least this one's shorter. This is 5 minutes. Um, I didn't have a whole lot to say about it. Again, it's shorter. It's kind of more straightforward. It gets to the point much faster. Um, good bass playing again from Geezer here, and it does have a good rhythm all the way through. Um, yeah, and lyrically, it's also I can see it, people kind of relating to it. Being a loner, kind of not many friends or stuff like that. So I can see people relating to it. But yeah, this is pretty good. This one did make my top 5. Yeah, it's a pretty solid song.
I agree. This also made my top 5. I think it's a pretty good song on the album. I think it definitely a highlight on the album for me. Think it's really good. Not only that, but the length of the song is perfect. It's not too long. It's not too short. I think it gets the point across. I think this is a great song. I'm with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the lyrics are pretty good too. Now we get to the even though there's no side 1 or side 2, but the last song on the first half of the album is Zeitgeist.
Zeitgeist. Yeah,
Zeitgeist.
yeah. Okay, this is again another shorter song, 4.5, about 4.5. Definitely probably the most mellow song on the album. This has a very similar feel to Planet Caravan from Paranoid to me. Again, it has that very jazzy acoustic guitar that Tony was doing. Um, Again, the bass is pretty good, and it has a pretty nice vibe to it. Um, I do like it, but again, it's probably again if we go back to what I said about Planet Caravan, I said that was not one of my favorite songs on that album. And this is kind of because it has that feel. Again, I have that. I kind of feel the same way about this song. Again, it's good. It's good for what it is, but it's definitely not a song I'm going to go back to very often. Yeah, but it's still okay. It did rank near the bottom for me, but I didn't hate it.
Okay, I actually disagree with you. I actually really like this song. I feel like when they did it on Paranoid, I don't think they did it as well on that album. I think they do it a lot better on this one. I don't know why. Maybe because it's not as maybe because it's not as psychedelic as the other one. Because I feel like they're going for more of like a psychedelic, sort of like a
Mm,
weird song. But I don't think it works on that song. I think it works well on this song though. I think that they learned from their mistakes. And they made a better song in my opinion. But that's just my opinion, of course.
hmm
This isn't like high in my top five, but it's definitely in my top five though. It's to me, it's a highlight for sure. I think it's a really good song. Now we get to the second half of the album, Age of Reason. That's the next song.
Okay. All right. So now we're kind of going back to more longer territories at about 7 minutes. It starts off pretty strong. Brad does a drum intro, which it would have been cool if Bill was doing it, but what can you do? The guitar riff is pretty strong. Again, great heavy bass tone from Geezer. Um, it does speed up a bit, but I will say this is another one where you do feel the length a bit. I feel like I do when I hear the song, I do feel like they could have trimmed a couple seconds, maybe a couple seconds off, maybe a minute, something like that. But I did like the bridge section. I think they really pick it up there, and it has a pretty good guitar solo. This one did make the top five, but it kind of barely got there. Kind of just squeaked up in there. But it's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. I thought it was good. This is the second song that ranks towards the bottom of my list. This did not make my top five. It's fine, but again, my problem with like God is Dead. It just feels too long for me. I don't think it warrants this length. I feel like if it was like a 4 minute song, I feel like it would have been good. But that's just my gripe on it. But it's good, but it's just not great.
Hmm
Uh, but we get to the next song on the album, "Live Forever."
All right, now we finally get back to something shorter. Yeah, another pretty good one. I think what I like the most about it, it does have a very like this definitely has a sound like if it was on Master of Reality. I think it has a similar vibe that would probably fit on that album. At least to my ears, it comes down to the guitar tone. But yeah, the guitar riff is pretty good. I think it has a pretty strong riff. I think it's pretty memorable. Drumming was solid. I think the guitar work was kind of took the center stage with this one though, because that's literally all I wrote about was Tony's guitar work. This one did make the top five. Yeah, this is I like this one.
I think this was pretty good. I think it's great on the album. This is in my top five. I think it's much better than the last song. I think this is quite good. I like that it sounds like that. I didn't know what it really sounded like, but you kind of perfectly said it. It does sound like a song for Master of Reality, and I think it works to its favor, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. Yeah, that's really good song. I quite liked it. Now I get to the next song on the album, "Damaged Soul."
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna be straight up. This was probably my least favorite song. It's 8 minutes. It starts off with some kind of backwards effect thing, and the intro was kind of interesting. But then it kind of goes into like this kind of mid-tempo sort of sort of beat. And kind of plays the same riff, that same guitar melody, pretty much the majority of the whole 8 minutes. And it's a good melody, but after a while, it started to get kind of boring. After a while, this is definitely one I can definitely say they could have easily shortened this one. This one definitely didn't warrant 8 minutes. If it was 4 minutes, then maybe, but yeah, I think this is definitely was the this is definitely this was not my favorite here, but again, it's okay. But again, the length kind of ruins it. So there you go.
I agree with you. This is the weakest song on the album. Did not care for it at all. This is
Mm-hmm.
definitely the weakest song on the album for sure. It's fine, but it is way too long.
Mm-hmm.
It's too long. That's it. It's just too long of a song. Should have been shorter. I don't know what the heck they were. I don't know what they were thinking. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a good idea, folks. Not a good foot in the right. Not a great foot in the right direction there. But we do get better from here. We get to the last song on the album, "Dear Father."
All right, dear Father. Okay, so the final Black Sabbath song that we'll hear. Well, then again, there's bonus tracks, but we're not including them. But yeah, so Dear Father, for the final Black Sabbath song, technically, I think this is a pretty good song to go out with. Again, it's on the longer side again, 7.5 minutes, but I feel like this one didn't really bother me too much. I do like this kind of the storytelling. This was kind of a dark subject matter because this was about child abuse that goes on in the Catholic Church, which is it does happen. And I know Geezer, he's a devout Christian, like we've established. And when he found out about it, yeah, he was pissed off about it. And so yeah, he kind of wrote the song, kind of shed light on it, just show just how terrible it is. So in that regard, I respect it. But yeah, guitar riff, very good. Really good drumming again from Brad here. And there was interesting. There were moments where it did remind me of there. I can't remember specific moments, but there were definitely moments which reminded me of War Pigs a little bit. And it speeds up, kind of brings it back, brings out a nice good conclusion. And what's interesting is that at the very end, like the last 40 seconds, you hear it, like the song ends, and then you're just left with church bells and rain. Again, we're going back to the debut. That's how the debut started. So, kind of bringing it back full circle yet again. I've actually read that Geezer thought it was kind of cheesy, but it is what it is. It's kind of cute. It's definitely of the longer tracks. It's definitely one of the best ones. But yeah, I think it's a pretty solid song to go out with.
That's some way to describe a Black Sabbath song. Cute.
Yeah, there you go.
That's like the last thing I would say when I think of Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath. Cute, but hey, that's that's an interesting
Yeah,
term for that. It's
yeah,
cute.
yeah. Just referring to your debut album. That's cute, especially on your final one.
Yeah, that's true. I love this song. I'm just gonna be
Yeah.
straight. This is my favorite song on the album. I
Mm,
think it works full circle in the best way possible. I think it's a great song. Just a great way to end off your discography. I hope this is their last song because I think it's a great song on the album. But without further ado, what's your top five? Or if you want to rank the songs, you could, depending on what you
all
want to
right.
do.
Yeah, I can do that. I can. I mean, it's just 8 songs. So number 8, I'm sure we'll agree. Damaged Soul, by far the weakest song here. Number 7,
Yep.
Zeitgeist. Number 6, End of the Beginning. Number 5, Age of Reason. Number 4, Live Forever. Number 3, Loner. Number 2, God is Dead. And number 1, I'm going to agree with you, Dear Father.
Nice. Glad you agree.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8, Damaged Soul. That song is not good. It's
Mm-hmm.
probably definitely the weakest song on the album. Number 7, I'm gonna go with God is Dead. Number 6, Age of Reason. Number 5, Zeitgeist. Number 4, End of the Beginning. Number 3, Loner. So I agree with you on that as well, Bryer. And number 2 is going to be Live Forever. Number 1, Dear Father.
All right.
So Yeah, we agree on 3 songs on this album. The
Oh,
Weakest, number
nice.
3, and number 1. That's
Nice.
cool.
That's cool.
What are you gonna rate this album?
Okay. So I think I'm gonna give this a 7.5. I do like this album. There's some good moments here. But again, there are some things that really bring it down. Like, yeah, a lot of the songs are a bit too long. They could have easily trimmed some of this stuff. And, I mentioned it in the beginning, but yeah, I mean, it's not the greatest production sound. Again, it's a bit too loud. Um, and, and Ozzy, we really didn't talk about Ozzy a lot throughout this whole album. But he sounds fine. For where he was at in 2013, it's definitely pretty good. He doesn't do any high notes or anything. He kind of plays it safe the whole time. But it's okay. It's definitely okay. He definitely does not sound bad. But overall, it's a pretty good album. I think again, like I said, it's a pretty solid album to go out with. It's not one of my favorites, but it's definitely it's an album I'll enjoy every once in a blue moon. I'll play it and I'll be like, oh, I do enjoy this one. So yeah, 7.5.
I'm gonna give it a 9.75 out of 10. I liked every song on the album, but some of these tracks are so long that it just kind of takes it out of the experience. Like this album
Mm-hmm.
is like this album's 53 minutes long. That's
Yeah,
long for an album for a single album.
yeah,
And
that's the CDH for you.
yeah, I hate the CDH. I hate that. It's so annoying. But it's good, but you know, not the best that they made.
Mm-hmm.
I do have it pretty high on my list, on my ranking list, which we will be doing at some point. But yeah, we concluded Black Sabbath. So next week, me and Bryer will be doing a retrospective, uh, as we always do at the end
Mm-hmm.
of our series. I mean, I say it like we like this is like our 7th or 8th series. This is our 3rd series, but as we normally do, we will do a retrospective. Then the following week, well, we'll do the retrospective in a top 10. Then the following week, since it's 20 albums long, we'll just do a straight up Black Sabbath ranking. Then we might do an in between album series review like we did the last 2 series, where we so in between the Birds and the Mamas and Papas, we reviewed Billy Nichols, and then in between this series and the Mamas and Papas, we did Hackney Diamonds by the Rolling Stones. So who knows what album we might choose for the in between. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I'm excited for all that. But after this series, we are going to be doing both Kate Bush and Genesis. We'll be alternating between the week. So 1 week will be Genesis, the other week will be Kate Bush, and we'll alternate. But yeah, that's gonna be exciting. But you excited for those series, Bryer?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, Genesis and Kate Bush, two of my pretty high. They'll be pretty high. Two of my favorite like music artists in general. Yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to do those two.
Cool. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. It's a pleasure doing this series with Bryer. It's amazing that I found someone who would be willing to review every Black Sabbath album with me.
It's a
Because
pleasure.
mostly, because well, before no one in heck would join us would join me in a series besides Bryer. Well, now there's a possibility Jacob could have joined us, but at that time we weren't collaborating at the time. So at that point, it was just Bryer that was the only one who was being able to join us. But until then, I'll see you guys next week at Bryer, where we do our retrospective in top 10. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.